Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for adding me to your Discord channel and to the Cloudflare worldwide family. I would just like to basically share my view of a specific topic. I've been looking at the Discord channel, watching all the videos, supporting all the comments, and I felt that there's something I wanted to look into myself from a personal perspective and see how I can contribute to the Discord channel and ultimately to our end client from the distributor side, to our partners and to the client. The topic I've picked was Agentic AI and governance, and this is built basically on the concept from the Cloudflare's Gateway AI and all the AI functionality which is now starting to become available for us to use inside the Cloudflare One tenant. For me, this was very interesting because although we all speak the lingo and we talk the talk and we use all these words, MCP and servers and agentic AI and natural language models, I sort of went back to myself and I asked, do you really understand this? Do you really know what this means? And do you understand where this whole flow comes together? And then ultimately, how can we with Cloudflare be able to get this together? So this is a personal journey which I'm just sharing and how I got there and what I've done in my lab. And yeah, welcome. Just really very grateful to be able to share this with everyone. So the Cloudflare workers, MCP protocol, Zero Trust, DLP is all part of the stack which I was looking at. And then lastly, one of my other interests is governance. I specialize in ISO 27000, 40200 for AI, and 22903 for BCP. And I wanted to look at this, how Cloudflare will address and rectify also the requirements from our CISOs, as well as our governance and compliance across the world where applicable. So to reiterate where I started in my summary is where did this all begin? As I said, that basically I myself have used a lot of words, a lot of lingo, but have not really delved into this to 100% understand what this is. So what is the MCP server? Yes, great. We hear that we can secure it now, but what does it actually do? Why does it exist? How does the AI agent actually call this tool? What is the AI agent capable to do to this tool? What does it extract and what does it receive? Especially sensitive data, what data is being inserted or removed, and who's watching, who can stop this, and how does this comply to data sovereignty and ISO. I've mentioned POPIA. I'm based in South Africa. This is our PII regulation. You would be maybe in your side of the world more familiar to GDPR or the state of California, privacy law, and then hence in other sides of the world where I maybe not have exposure as yet. I found also with my research that 82% of enterprises will be implementing AI agents by 2028. And I want to reiterate, reading further in this context, that this is actually official agents which will be documented, implemented, and actioned. Where currently, I think the same amount of percentage shadow AI is being used, where individuals who can code, who can use AI to code and build agents, is running locally on their endpoints and basically querying your infrastructure and your AI systems and AI models, extracting or injecting data, and there's no visibility to this. So we need structuring for intelligence, and we need to comply to this. So what is an MCP server? It's the Model Context Protocol. It's the plumbing between AI and your data. So in this case, AI would be an AI agent, can be Claude, it can be a Claude local desktop installation, or it can be a custom built agent if you would like to go that far. But in my case, I use Claude desktop to talk to a MCP client and to an MCP server. From an MCP client perspective, I was using my endpoint, as I said, and that queried a MCP server, which I've built a very small micro SaaS application where I do my ISO audits, capture my data of my clients, and aligning standards to each other and populating reports. And I used this example because this was where I could see how sensitive data of clients are being put into the cloud, what you can see, what you can get, and what any kind of agent can get out of it, and what I can see what was happening. Going back to the previous slide, who is watching and who can stop it. Currently, I can't, and I had no visibility, and now I start understanding where these guardrails is required to come in. The D1 database of Cloudflare is also part of my lab, where I was able now to store my data efficiently at the edge. Again, back to our Cloudflare model, this is really complemented. The MCP client is running on my endpoints over my Warp agent or directly through access on Zero Trust through Cloudflare One. And I was able to build my model or MCP server on a container and or in workers or pages, which is really brilliant, and then connected that to a D1 database of Cloudflare and similar tools where I was able to attach buckets or Cloudflare storage as well for this. For this examples, I've built in the model get client risk, calculate risk score of the client, and triage security incidents, which was basically the output I need for a report or a query to automate and make my life much easier and to have the consistent result to a end client in a report, post or audit or implementation. The transport measure was via HTTP on my endpoint directly to my natural language model, and which is hosted on Cloudflare Workers, and no local server was needed. So that was also brilliant to get to this lab and to get it built. The governance, I have used just a basic authentication to simulate the difference between no authentication and authentication. JWT obviously is much more required, but due to this being a lab and just a conceptual example, my queries was to prove authentication and not authentication just by using a bearer token and a standard API token. The lab I've built is in my lab world. It's a real remote MCP server on Cloudflare Workers. That is my lab. If you now go to it, you will be prompted and protected by Cloudflare Access. If you are part of my Warp client on Zero Trust, you will have access, and that would be great. But again, the complement of the first guardrails came up by placing this inside Cloudflare's distributed network and protecting it with Cloudflare One Zero Trust access, as well as a gateway with my Warp or Cloudflare One agent, as we stated now in the moment. The commands I run is data, pre-populated data, dummy data which I created to list the date, list the clients, get the audit findings, triage the security incident, get my ISMS statistics, etc. And as you can see, how this aligns to the ISO 2700 controls. Again, this is just my interpretation and my journey, but this also helped me to create the knowledge to now be able to speak very lightly confidently in front of you on this. Okay, moving forward, how the Cloudflare products in the lab worked. Again, just to reiterate, I've used Workers, which is serverless on the edge compute, host the entire MCP server. It runs in 200 to 350 global locations. There's no infrastructure required. Secondly, it's connected to a Cloudflare database, if you know Cloudflare One. Again, very beneficial, showing how quickly this technology can be spun up and utilized inside a Cloudflare powerful network, but also our Cloudflare has now went for us a step further with the guardrails coming. I was able to store client data, risk registers, and query these databases through the MCP server to the backend. For Gateway, I've used the network DLP, which was built a DLP profile inside Zero Trust DLP. And I was able to do the inspection layer and also required the Cloudflare One agent, formerly known as Warp, and certificate for the authentication. The blocks and the logs, I've done packet logging, so there was not a South African PII pre-built DLP profile, but it was literally a Google here and a quick AI request, and I was able to build a regex which I could just import and save and name a South African PII, and that complies now, and it was able to match all our IDN numbers which I've tested. The Warp, again, formerly Warp, now Cloudflare One agent, has created the device level. It routes my traffic through the gateway, or it routes you, who will come directly to the lab via the access advertised page, but which is currently logged down to my Entra instance with IDP or OTP to my email address domain. This has also helped me to implement device posture checks, as when I want to access my ML locally through my Cloudflare network with my Cloudflare One agent, I wanted to make sure that my posture checks is in place and test that as well with on top of the adding the value of the DLP gateway or the DLP module of the gateway. Cloudflare Access was the identity layer. Like I said, I brought in bearer tokens, which I've put in my Cloudflare secrets. That was very valuable because I was able to write the code to call the variable and fetch the secrets from Cloudflare secrets, put it back into my container, and all my database keys for the encryption between the database and the front end, as well as the authentication measures in between. Again, that was really very great. JWT would be definitely preferable, but didn't want to go that far for this basic explanation. Workers and secrets, as I've mentioned, the encrypted environable variables in my code was able to go and get the API tokens or the code, never in the code of my Wrangler, and I was able to use GitHub and the Caspi function to also run vulnerability scans against my Caspi instance or via Caspi to my GitHub instance, definitely adding another benefit to this picture. The next step, why we're here, is where governance is a problem. So the AI agents can make a call via curl or via the agent programming or agent interface, and there is commands available which I've built in the ML to query certain information, as we've seen my blueprint earlier, and where this basically will give information out. So without governance or adding just this on my MCP server on Cloudflare with my D1 database and no authentication, I was able to get the calls, list the clients, and I was able to see sensitive information, for example, like my email address, my ID number, my salary, and which is basically the raw PII data delivered to any device from anywhere with no authentication. When I've added the DLP component to this on the access module, as well as over warp and gateway, I was able to state that if you query this data, even from a trusted authenticated source, the following data must not be able to be obtained or extracted from the MCP server and the database to the end client or the AI agent. And as you can see here, my email address, SAID, and salary has been basically redacted. Not unavailable, redacted, which is really, really great, showing that the DLP was working, and hence also the DLP was implemented with a custom regex. This was even more impressive for me, getting the whole Cloudflare One stack together with Agentic AI. Two ways to implement this DLP. So I've went two ways first. The first way was the Cloudflare Gateway DLP. So central policy applies to all traffic through the warp agent, unified audit log on the Zero Trust dashboard. But it ran into a couple of challenges for me, which I think will be a challenge going forward in a real production environment. You will require a warp agent on a machine. You need to go client, not clientless. Then secondly, you need the TLS inspection, so you will need your custom certificate or the Cloudflare certificate issued inside your tenant. We will require DLP profiles configured in the gateway and fail silently if the cert is not trusted. So if a user is a Mac user and the certs cannot be pushed very easily via Intune or the MDM device tools, this was practical and it is 100% working. I've made it all work, but that's fine for inside enterprise. But now, in my life, I work from anywhere and I want to access this application from any place. And this led basically to the requirement of how will this be even more easier and more transparent to the clients. With this, I built option 2, where I was basically published the site as a internal use site through Cloudflare Access. I've done IDP integration, and that led that I didn't need to cert on my machine, and I also didn't need to warp. The DLP was applied to the same, and the audit headers on the response for everyone was able to be done. I've basically built a DLP for 6 rules: SA ID, email, ZAR amount for the value of me as a staff member, passport, phone, CC. So this was then reducted correctly, and it's authenticated. Coming back to what Agentic AI actually does in Cloudflare, in my experience now, it first takes the one box that you can see who's coming from where, what's the IP address, who are they, what did they call, who do they identify themselves, and continuously we're able to do that verification. Zero trust then, but coming from anywhere without a certificate or a warp agent. Secondly, I was able then to do authentication and enforce a AI desktop agent or AI agent to authenticate before it gets to my MCP server or even start transmissioning any protocol or any traffic. The third one that helped is after I've done the identification, I have allowed you and you are able to get the calls. You were still required then to only see what you can, and no post or injection of PII data, of manipulation of PII data was able, because it is now prohibited by the DLP and the AI genetic AI integration, as well as you are not able to view it no matter what your privileges or rights. And this has definitely helped a lot to understand now the value of what this can provide to us. Now let's take the full architecture with the 4 governance layers together and the defense in depth model of Cloudflare 1 and Cloudflare Genetic AI firewall to this. So from at the bottom we have Cloudflare Access, the bearer token and authentication. That will basically lock everything in, otherwise you get a 401 or missing error. Secondly, there's application layer DLP for workers 3.0. That will do DLP regex matching to the SAID, ZAR, and passport, etc. sensitive PII data. The model safety for my Claude Sonnet 4.6 refused to call PII tools. It's cited in the ISO A8 requirement, and that helps us to look after that part of matter. And then Claude Desktop Agent MCP is the agent interface, connects to the MCP remote with bearer token and arguments. Also, if it's run locally, the Cloudflare 1 agent regulates that agent which runs on my endpoint and on many endpoints going forward, to basically prevent this and secure it. So that is the full architecture. In my point of view, looking across all 4 layers of the governance with in-depth security from Cloudflare. I'm going to do a live demo on this. For this demo, the outputs is basically taking a non-authenticated curl approach to the MCP server, which is protected behind the AI gateway and access. Secondly is when the tool has done authentication, what do you get back? Thirdly is the DLP reduction, PII intercepted. And secondly is basically where you can see the headers and the impact of the headers. So for this one here, you can see on the first one that we've done the curl without the bearer token, and this gave us a 401 unauthorized. If this was an endpoint with warp, it would have worked, but without warp, it does not work. The DLP, the second one is the tools when it's authenticated. I now send a bearer token, which from my endpoint, and I get a result. I would be able to see that I'm expecting 9 tools listed for my MCP or my model, and my model is able, I can query this model now authenticated, and I've got access to the model, which is limited to the use. The DLP reduction and PII intercepted. I then call to say, give me my personnel records. Arguments include PII true. I am expecting to get it back, but the DLP module is now basically the reduction, and it reducted the email, the SAID, and the ZAR. It shows me that it is here for the personnel and the record is available, but for the agent purposes, and my agent is not able to extract this data. The DLP headers and audit evidence. is showing to me who did this, why did they do it, and where they did it from. The ISO 27001-2002 alignment, by just putting in these steps and this architecture, we cover six of the Annex A, or Statement of Reciprocity, controls, which is access control, cloud services, secure authentication, vulnerability, logging, and network security. The in-depth steps is there, but this is really by using Cloudflare 1 and the Agentic AI firewall, you already, by putting the whole stack together, get this benefit from it. Additionally, if you look at the 4201 ISO standard, which is also aligned to the EU AI Act, if you are in Europe, this is coming, and it also covers 6 objectives here at the same time. Is the AI risk assessment, the AI objective, the AI system impact assessment, monitoring and measurement, responsible use of AI, and data governance for AI. So basically, in summary, the industry context, why this matters now. Structured context is the difference between plausible answers and trustworthy actions. This is from the O'Reilly survey, and is a write-up on Gartner as well. In the explanation from the article and my elaboration of it is that MCP as the plumbing. O'Reilly report specifically names MCP as a transport layer connecting the AI. The governance is non-negotiable. Without structure, context, and governance, agents cannot function safely. So our 4-layer context stack proves it to be implementable today. And then the CISO new mandate, AI governance is now a data governance and security governance problem. ISO 27000-4200 provide the framework, and the lab showed that you can align the Cloudflare 1 technology to address this requirement. What we've proved today, the MCP server was able to deploy with code from GitHub or with Wrangler directly into the worker. I was able to run a serverless language model, AI language model, my own one with my own code. I was able to execute 9 tools to make my life easier. I had everything captured in a database. I was able to do this on edge compute with any cost routing, which gives me the benefit of speed and delivery to everyone who uses the app. I was able to apply an application layer of DLP in real time before it even hits my language model. I was at no risk because Cloudflare AI Gateway was able, with DLP enforcement, to prevent agents, rogue agents, or my own authorized agents without authenticate to get this information. The zero trust authentication has worked. Although I used the bearer token, I was able to extract the bearer token out of secrets vault inside Cloudflare 1 secrets and put it via a variable into my code, which is a brilliant advancement for us as well. Cloudflare Access locks down the browser path, and the 4wire1 token error is available. Claude was refused for PII 3 times in a row, and it was cited to the POPIA, my South African data, your GDPR or equivalent to State of California, people of State of California, as well as in the Asian Pacific region. ISO 27008 flag social engineering pattern unprompted. ISO 2700, ISO 4200 is mapped. We've basically mapped 6 controls in the one, 6 in the other. That's 12 controls for a CISO or a client of Cloudflare being looked after, and very tough questions on the moment in boardrooms is being addressed. And the secrets tokens, as I said, was successfully put inside the worker secret vault, and no external vault was required in the solution. So I want to say and use the slogan now that the worker is the control boundary, not the device, not the client, not the network. The code is running at the edge. That's where the governance lives on the moment. If you have any questions about this, you are more than welcome to reach out to me via the Discord channel. If you are a partner, please let us know if there's anything we can assist with this from the distributor point of view. And I hope this personal journey can help you to go and investigate this and see what you can learn from this. And I really appreciate your time and watching this video. And again, it's great to be part of this Discord community and be able to work with like-minded individuals, loving Cloudflare, loving the technology, and trying to get creative ways to make this product work for the best suited way for our clients in the long term. I thank you and I hope you have a great day.